Oh, this one could be fun.
Alright, I know what you're thinking. I have Exodia in my deck, how much of a challenge can this run be? Well, the issue with Exodia is that it has no support in this game. There are no search effects, there's no drawing cards, and Forbidden Memories came out in 1989 before the official card game even existed, so the idea of Exodia support like we have today wasn't even thought about.
Man, look at all that Exodia support for newest game. I have some of these cards. I have the field spell, I think, in quotation marks. I have the trap card several times, the old one and the new one. The spell card I have, the quick play one. Some of the monsters as well, even the fusion one. The other one I don't have, I think, is the key. And that one's the most important one. I really want to play this deck in real life, but fuck, man. The cards some of these they have are expensive. I think the Millennium Key was the most expensive one. Let me check real quick. Card. Hater Yu-Gi-Oh! Card trade. Man, I should probably save it as a playlist or something like that. This is kind of unfortunate for me. Why is it so... Oh yeah, because I zoom. It's Millennium Key. Look at that. Wait. What? Oh, it's Ankh. My mistake. It's Ankh. This is a dice. Talk about making things unfortunate for me. Trying to search for a card and I made a dice. Alright. Millennium Ankh. Yeah, there we go. Millennium Ankh. It's weird how he spells. Quarter century seed. Oh, it's actually... Oh, wow. There's a Japanese version that's like $51. But I don't need that one. So we have the secret rare, which is around $4. We have a ultra rare, which is $6. Holy shit, the price trend is ludicrously high. This quarter century one makes sense to be the most expensive. It is the most rarity card of all of them, all things considered. Yeah, but anyways, I really wish I could play this deck IRL, but unfortunately, can't. I barely can afford some of the cards that I can play in this game. Yu-Gi-Oh! Became super expensive, man. Like before it wasn't that expensive, but nowadays it's super, super expensive.
The only type of support it has is the game mechanic that you can dump cards from your hand to pick up the same amount next turn. But I think the real issue is what even constitutes an Exodia deck? Of course you're going to have the 5 pieces of Exodia, but then what are the 35 other cards? Well, I asked you all what you thought the requirements for an Exodia challenge run should be, and overwhelmingly you felt that you need to win every duel by drawing Exodia. But a lot of you felt I shouldn't be able to attack and can only use defense monsters. And you know what? I agree with every single one of you who voted. I'm going to do all 4 options and make this as hard as possible. It is a challenge run after all, may as well make it a tough one. So let's go over the rules for this run, and there are a lot of them. First, I have to win every duel with Exodia, and this includes all duels and free duel. What makes this difficult is when farming for cards, winning with Exodia adds 40 points to your rank, so essentially I have to find a way to lose 71 points in order to get Atex for all the best cards. I may as well tell you now that farming Pegasus for Megamorph is just not possible with this rule. He can see your face down cards in free duel, so he'll never gamble on your defense position monsters, and getting defensive wins is mandatory to get Atex when winning with Exodia. So this is also a Megamorphless run. Second rule, I can't attack, can't stall with a big attack monster, and can only put monsters in defense mode. This means my opponents have free reign to utilize their decks to their maximum potential. The way the CPU works is if their field is empty, they'll just put in any monster they can in defense because their response is that they need to protect their life points. They won't fuse, they won't activate magics or use equip cards, or put down traps. This makes many duels very easy when playing the game normally. You're going to see these easy duels are completely different in this run.
Alright.
Rule 3. The starting deck will be built just like any other starting deck. So I'll start with only one equip card and a bunch of weak monsters. Rule 4. Every monster card in my deck, excluding the pieces of Exodia, have to be defense dominant. They must have higher or equal defense than their attack so as to ensure I'm not tempted to slight Rule 3.
Seems reasonable.
5th, just like the Rock Only Challenge run, I can duplicate cards I win in Free Duel, but cannot duplicate ones I buy with the password system. 6th, I can't exploit the game in any way to get Pocket Station exclusive cards. 7th, I have to defeat everyone in the campaign, so I can't avoid Seto second, and I have to duel the villagers early on, which are much tougher when you let them do whatever they want. And finally, for the 8th rule, I am allowed to fuse cards for this run, whether it be intentional or I just want to mill cards from my hand. They still need to be put in defense mode, so often a fusion leads to a weaker card defensively, making this even tougher. Alright, let's finally look at the starting deck. With all the attack dominant cards out of the selection pool, we end up with a lot of duplicates, which isn't a bad thing. Set 1 gave us the 4 pieces of Exodia, 2 Maneater Bug, 2 Starboy, 2 Rainbow Flower, 2 Turo Purin, 1 Mystery Hand, 1 Air Marmot of Nefariousness, 1 Haniwa, and 1 Mechanical Spider. Set 2 gave us 3 Hard Armor, 3 M Warrior number 2, 2 Psychic Kappa, 2 Genin, 2 Petite Angel, 2 Kanikabutu, and 2 Green Kappa. Set 3 gave us Exodia's Head, Dragon Piper, Armail, and Gorgon Egg. Set 4 gave us Weather Report, Set 5 Raigeki, Set 6 Sogen, and Set 7 Kunai with Chain. It's time to tackle the campaign with the original holder of Exodia, Simon Muron. Yeah, that's right, this guy, the first duel of the game, can have all 5 pieces of Exodia in his deck. Now they each only have a 1 out of 20/48 chance of being in his deck at all, but the fact that this is even possible is just outrageous.
Getting Exodia while playing an Exodia deck.
Dumping everything and putting Gorgon Egg in defense. Simon sets a monster. I activate Sogen for that field boost. Simon fuses Bone Mouse with Armed Ninja to make Zombie Warrior, which isn't strong enough to attack over Gorgon Egg. I dump everything, accidentally fuse M Warrior number 2 with Armail to make Cherubin the Fire Knight, so I waste my Kunai with Chain. Simon fuses Zombie Warrior with Dark Plant to make Pumpkin the King of Ghosts, and now I'm in trouble. I draw the left leg and dump the rest, playing Hard Armor. Simon takes it out and sets a magic card, which can either be Muyon Curry or Sparks. I draw another piece and set Raigeki. Simon destroys my knight and attacks directly with Monster Eye. I draw a third piece and dump. Thankfully, Simon isn't doing any more fusing, so Pumpkin isn't attacking my life points directly, giving me more time to win the game. I play Hard Armor and use Raigeki so that only Simon's strongest fusions can get through.
Neat.
He sets a monster. I dump again.
Maneater Bug.
This blue bitch has the nerve to fuse Ancient Jar with a right leg to make Ushioni the strongest fusion he can make. I can only keep dumping and hoping. The good news is his other face-down monster can't attack over Maneater Bug, so I still have some turns to draw Exodia. I play Petite Angel, which Ushioni destroys immediately. Still no luck drawing more pieces, but I do get Dragon Piper, and it has a Mars Guardian Star, which is strong against Ushioni's Jupiter Star, so I'm no longer in danger of being attacked over, and I can continue to draw and dump the duel. Now, since you can't normally get all 5 pieces of Exodia and losing to Exodia is pretty rare, I figure I'll show what happens in its entirety once, but after this, it'll be skipped.
Exodia in this one always looks super menacing. Like, he looks like he's been crying the way he's modeled here in 3D. It's his face, especially. Breaks the chains, yells, and focuses a giant energy ball to blast you into oblivion. Exodia obliterates. And the music is awesome too.
By the way, that whole cutscene with the cards flashing, Exodia breaking from its chains, and then obliterating the opponent cannot be skipped. So I had to watch that every single time in Free Duel when I was farming.
Hope you loved it.
I timed it. It's a 50-second cutscene. After this challenge, I don't want to see Exodia for a good long while. But back to the run. We defeated Simon and head straight to the duel grounds to take on Tiana and the villagers. I immediately draw the left arm and dump the rest of my hand, putting Hard Armor in defense. Tiana sets a monster. I dump my hand again. Tiana fuses her face down Tomasaurus with Steel Scorpion to make Cybersaurus and attacks my Hard Armor. You're really seeing now how quick the CPU can get something on the field if you don't apply any pressure. Activate Sogen to boost my future monsters. She uses Guardian Star Advantage to attack over my Genin with Shadow Spectre and does a beefy 1800 life point damage with her source. I used the Raigeki I drew last turn because the way that Tiana's deck is built makes it unlikely she'll have anything else to fuse. She attacks me with a Karibo, I draw the head and put Psychic Kappa in defense. Tiana fuses Karibo with Skull Serpent to make a harmless Shadow Spectre. I wanted to dump Psychic Kappa, but forgot to confuse with Aqua Monsters to make Hyasu. Tiana manages to fuse into Zombie Warrior using a swordsman from a foreign land to attack my Psychic Kappa, and now I'm wishing I didn't mess up with Weather Report because next turn she uses Guardian Star Advantage again with Shadow Spectre to beat over Hyasu, while Zombie Warrior destroys the other... Okay, never mind. Tiana never came close to threatening me again after that, and I was able to win the duel.
Neat.
Now, Villager 1 is the pushover of the campaign. But if you let him get going, his deck can consistently fuse into monsters such as Cyber Soldier, Flower Wolf, Mystical Sand, and even Flame Cerebrus. I draw the left leg, keep Kunai with Chain, and dump the rest. Villager sets a monster. I dump the Genins and equip Kunai to Hard Armor. A few turns go by, and I get lucky in drawing Sogen because next turn, Villager fuses Dancing Elf with Ancient Jar to make Mystical Sand, and Hard Armor has just enough defense to prevent him from attacking over. That was the only threatening moment of the duel, and I win House of Adhesive Tape, which would have been instantly useful any other run, but doesn't serve much purpose to us in this one. Villager 2 is where even a regular playthrough of the game gets tested. This kit can fuse into a lot of strong cards this early in the game, including Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, which pretty much is an instant loss if I don't have Raigeki on hand. I draw into a right arm and dump the rest of my hand. Villager 2 gives me some breathing room and just sets a monster. I dump my hand again. He fuses Vishwar Randy.
Do I make you Randy?
With Fire Reaper to make Zombie Warrior, which isn't threatening. I dump again. He fuses Zombie Warrior with Green Kappa to make Armored Zombie, and now it's threatening. Thankfully, I draw into Raigeki, Weather Report, and Dragon Piper, so I'm safe from a lot he can do. He sets a magic card, which can either be Red Medicine or Final Flame, then attacks another Hard Armor. I draw a third piece and set Dragon Piper, which he attacks into next turn. I then play Weather Report, and now I'm feeling pretty good. Until Villager 2 fuses Petite Angel with Torike to make Garvis, and now I'm a little worried. I get a fourth piece, and immediately use Raigeki to wipe his field.
Clear the board.
A few turns later, he fuses Laughing Flower with Goddess of Whim to make Queen of Autumn Leaves, but Dragon Piper has Guardian Star Advantage, so it wasn't worrying. I win the duel, getting a Graveyard in the Hand of Invitation that I put in my deck along with House of Adhesive Tape before I take on Villager 3.
I like how he's giving us
dumping my entire hand.
an example of the
I get
deck.
lucky and Villager 3 only sets a monster. I activate Sogen to boost my monsters. Villager 3 brings out the big guns and fuses One-Eyed Shield Dragon with Stone Armadillo to make Stone D and destroys my warrior.
Stone D.
Now I'm in panic mode and dump everything. Villager 3 plays a decent attack monster in Mammoth Graveyard, and I'm sweating. I draw two pieces, which is terrible because that means I have less wiggle room to dump unneeded cards. Villager 3 attacks me directly with his Mammoth and a Water Dragon Fairy.
Is this going to be his loss?
I draw a third piece, and this is looking bad for me. He sets a magic card, and I get.
I mean, you're playing Exodia, so that's to be
I draw in a
expected.
Dragon Piper and set it, hoping the CPU decides attacking is no longer working, and this is where I realize that this challenge run is possible. Villager 3 opts to not attack with Stone D, Mammoth Graveyard, and Water Dragon Fairy, and instead attacks into Dragon Piper with Spike Snail, keeping me alive for another turn. What's happening here is there's essentially a difficulty slider for opponents that affects whether or not they decide to attack face-down monsters with each monster they control. Each duelist is put into one of four categories that determines the percent chance that this will happen. Villager 3 is in the 75% category, which means that every monster he has on the field has a 3 out of 4 chance to not attack a face-down monster. Which is great news for me, because he just fused his Stone D with Electric Snake to make Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon.
Oh,
He destroys my Armail and doesn't attack my face-down Kanekabuto.
but you're in trouble.
Away, and Villager 3 chooses to only attack with his Mammoth Graveyard. I set Genin. He again only attacks with his Mammoth. I continue to be at the mercy of RNG, and it doesn't go well for me, but I scrape by with 100 life points remaining. I set to Repurin and pray.
Wow.
He fuses Spike Snail, Mystical Sheep number 2, and Larvis to make Mon Larvis, and doesn't attack at all. I set Haniwa, and it doesn't even feel like I'm playing the game anymore, just waiting to see if the CPU grants mercy on me or not. I draw in a Kunai with Chain, and looks like my luck has ran out. Psych! Villager 3 didn't attack at all, and I draw
Nice.
Raigeki next turn to wipe his field and win the duel a few turns later! I win Hi-Oh, which is a good defensive card, but I didn't realize it at the time. With the duel grounds completed, we do our usual shtick with Tiana, Jono, and Seto. Tiana can't believe it, Jono gets squished like the insect he is, and Seto gets called for dinner, and that gives us plenty of time to start farming in free duel, starting with Simon Moran. When farming against him, we don't have to worry about any magics or traps, but there are a few fusions he can make that can cause some problems, like Dark Elf, Mystical Sand, and Ushioni. There is that minuscule chance he has all 5 pieces of Exodia, and honestly I was hoping he'd get to use it on me just for the experience of it happening, but I got no such luck. Looking at my deck, there are quite a bit of warrior types, so that's what I'm going with, a warrior-based defensive deck. For that reason, I put Hi-Oh in, which was a great drop. Simon Moran is going to help us make this deck better with Sogen that I won on win 21 to give all my monsters that field boost, and Legendary Sword to give us a few equips at win 47. I was going for other cards like Mystical Elf, Griffor, Toon Alligator, and Fake Trap, but I capped farming Simon at 50 duels and worked with what he gave me. I then moved on to Villager 2 because he can give a lot of cards that have high defense for this stage in the game. There are a lot more fusions we have to worry about compared to Simon, such as Garvis, Flame Cerebrus, B-Dragon Jungle King, and Old Faithful, but despite that I only lost 2
And Old
times.
Faithful.
Win 3 gets me Armored Rat. Win 5, Mons Turtle, which I can fuse with Armored Rat to make Turtle Tiger, or Armail to make Giant Turtle who feeds on flames. Win 7, I get Rock Ogre number 2, which I can use with any turtle to make Beefy Boy Boulder Tortoise. Win 12, I get Spike Snail. Win 15, another Hi-Oh, which is great. Win 16, Ancient Tree of Enlightenment. Win 20, another Dragon Piper. Win 27 gives me Yami, which I might end up using later. After that, Villager 2 didn't give me anything I could use, so I stopped farming him after 50 wins. Regardless of the unprofitable end there, the deck we have is looking pretty stall-worthy, so let's go back into the campaign and test it. Jono is one of the few duels in the game with a consistent
cool.
deck pool, meaning there is little variation to what he can have because there isn't a lot for the game to choose from. This makes him a pretty tough duel as he'll almost always have the fusion materials to make Queen of Autumn Leaves, Mystical Sand, and Ushioni. He also only has a 25% chance to not attack your face-down monsters. I draw the left
Joey
leg,
is
dump the
a
rest,
risk
and play
taker.
Dragon Piper. Jono sets a monster. I draw Kunai with Chain and play Ancient Tree of Enlightenment. Jono fuses Dark Plant with Magician of Faith to make Queen of Autumn Leaves and destroys my tree. I draw Sogen, but dump instead, accidentally fusing into Flower Wolf, which gets destroyed next turn. I draw another Sogen, so I dump one and activate the other. Jono sets all his monsters in defense. Here I realize my current deck has a little issue with dumping cards because there are many monsters that fuse into each other, resulting in a fusion with lesser defense, and I even waste my Kunai with Chain on this Bean Soldier. If I just had played Hi-Oh with both equips, then this Mystical Sand Jono fuses next turn wouldn't be a threat. Thankfully, I draw M-Warrior number 2 with a Legendary Sword, and it has the Venus Guardian Star, which is strong against Mystical Sand's Mercury Star, so I'm safe. Mystical Elf takes out my Bean Soldier. I dump Sogen and fuse Armored Rat and Green Cap and make Tiger Axe, which immediately gets destroyed next turn.
Neat.
Got a third piece and set Raigeki just in case Jono pulls Ushioni out of his ass, which he was very close to doing with that Mystic Lamp. Activate Raigeki, and a few turns later, I summon Exodia for the win. Now on to Seto. This is the first duel where magics can threaten us. Seto can have Spellbinding Circle to lower our monster's defenses, he has a high chance to have Dark Hole, and he can have every field magic to get rid of our Sogen field bonus. He also has many high attack monsters and fusions that can get us sweating fast, and since I won't be stopping anything Seto does, he can even play Blackluster Soldier using his ritual card. I start by drawing
No
the left
way.
arm and choose to only set Dragon Piper
I was
because
using
if I try to dump, I'll end
Blackluster
up with a lower
Soldier.
defense Cherubin the Fire Knight. Seto immediately fuses Queen's Double and Mechanical Spider to make Cyber Soldier, then gets walled by Dragon Piper. I dump my Hard Armor, and that's it. Seto didn't threaten me the whole duel, which is very peculiar seeing how he has a couple mechanics to literally cheat. He came close, fusing Shadow Spectre, Arm Ninja, and Dark Plant to make Pumpkin into King of Ghosts, but nothing more. He ended up with 4 face-down magic cards in his field, and it's a good chance one of them was Dark Hole, but the CPU won't activate it if it has more monsters than you do, which was the case for this entire duel. Anyway, Seto was upset that he lost, so he tells his dad to beat up my dad. Papa tells me to run away, but being the rebellious little brat that I am, I refuse him long enough for Heishin to catch up. Heishin tells me not to move, which I already wasn't doing. Man, I hate when people tell you not to do something you're already not doing. Like, whatever. We duel, I get dumpster fire shit on, and my father transfers me to another school in the distant future. We're now at the Domino tournament, where I'm sure grinding is going to be a big part of getting through this.
Going to the
It's a good time
future.
to just say now that usually when I go into a challenge run, I have a complete step-by-step process on how I'm going to beat the game. But for this Exodia run, I didn't know what was going to work because it's such a different way to play the game and the opponents have all the opportunity to be at full strength that it was a completely new experience. Easy duels became toss-ups, and many times I was at the mercy of luck. So I had notes and ideas on how I wanted it to play out, but there are several moments where I had to scrap everything and figure out a new strategy. But back to the tournament. We're starting off with Rex Raptor, who despite being the designated dinosaur duelist is only worrying when he gets a small chance to make dragons. I draw left leg and set Sogen. Rex
reminds
uses
me to
man-eating plant,
continue with,
fire reaper, and Abyss flower to make Pumpkin the king
making
of
my
ghosts
Yu-Gi-Oh
and attack him
videos.
directly. I set Arm Mail
Probably
because
get
Mars
on
Guardian
that.
Star gives him a boost against Pumpkin's Jupiter Star, and I activate Sogen so it can defend against anything else. With that play, the duel was won. Rex came close to getting over my defenses with Black Dragon Jungle King, but unfortunately for him, all he could do was watch me mill, which took forever because the head was the last card in the deck.
Wow,
Evil
literally
Lord,
the last
who can
card.
cause some trouble with his boost cards, Jirai Gumo, or fusing into Summon Skull.
You can use Summon
Draw
Skull?
Exodia's head, dump, and use Legendary Sword on hard armor. Weevil sets a monster. Activate Sogen, making hard armor 2200 defense, and now there's very little that Weevil can do. He fuses Dehuman with Yaiba Robo to make Cyber Soldier, which was the first of many fusions this duel. Metal Fish, Pumpkin, the King of Ghosts, Cyber Source, Queen of Autumn Leaves, Quaggar Hercules, even had his ace monster Jirai Gumo. He was
Wow,
trying
he's
everything he
really
could, but it
fusing
just wasn't
everything.
enough. Took 39 cards to win the duel, so better than the duel with Rex Raptor. We're getting better at this tournament thing. But we're taking a break for a bit to farm Weevil and Free Duel for some higher defense monsters. Win 9 gets me Turtle Tiger, so I don't have to fuse into it now. Win 14 gives Sleeping Lion, which is great at 1700 defense. Win 21 drops Protector of the Throne, which is not only a good defensive monster on its own, but I can fuse it with a beast type like Armored Rat or my new Sleeping Lion to make Knucklegal number 2. Win 49, I get Prevent Rat, my first 2000 defense wall. And to top it all off, win 50, I get the field magic card Forest, so I'm replacing the warrior-centric Sogen deck with a beast and forest deck. I also bought One-Eyed Shield Dragon because it's the last ritual material needed for Curse of Millennium Shield, the others being Armored and Prevent Rats. So with these upgrades, let's go back to the tournament and face off with My Valentine. Her deck has a lot of females and wing beasts, with a small chance to make some strong dragons.
Oh,
She
he
also
has
have a lot of
Millennium
magic
Shield already.
powers, but this new deck can definitely handle it. I start by setting my new ritual card. Mai says I'm stupid for using star chips on a ritual card and dusts it away. I fuse Turtle Tiger with Dragon Piper to make Giant Turtle who feeds on flames. Mai sets a monster. I dump everything.
It is kind of
Sleeping
infuriating
Lion
that
defense.
you couldn't even get to summon Millennium
Mai
Shield.
uses Cyber Shield on her face down Spirit of the Harp, which means nothing to us. And that was the trend for this entire duel. Mai did a whole lot of nothing. Despite using 2 spellbinding circles, she couldn't make anything strong enough to attack over Prevent Rat. So I drew 39 cards to get the last piece and won easily. I won Silver Bow and Arrow, which may make a reappearance later. Next up, the Card Professor, Bandicoot.
She looks
Who
so
actually isn't a
aggressive.
Professor, that's just a name fanboys gave neckbeards like Keith due to their prevalence at large dueling events, where big money prizes were up for grabs. Anyway, Keith tells me to get ready for a thrashing, and he meant it. This was a big leap in difficulty compared to Mai. I lost 3 times before this duel due to Keith fusing THT,
3 times?
Mechanical Chaser, having Zoa on turn 1, and even bringing out Metal Zoa. Currently, unless I ritual summon Millennium Shield or Hive Raigeki on hand, I'm screwed if Zoa is played.
Man, this also reminds me that I really want to also get the Metal Foes cards to make a Metal Foes deck. Max Metal Morph is like absolutely cool, all things considered. Still a reference to Joey and Ben Keith's duel. If only I could find all the cards. Again, real life Yu-Gi-Oh! Is just infuriating because no one's trading the cards that you need.
The only reason I have a chance against Tornado Thunder Dragon is because Prevent Rat has the Uranus star, so with a forest boost it has a higher defense. After 4 turns, I get my little combo up, and the rest of the duel is just hoping Keith doesn't have a Zoa or even uses 2 conversion factories on Mechanical Chaser. And Keith tried this duel. He fused THTD, 2 Crimson Sunbirds, he boosted Mechanical Chaser with an equip card, and he made fun of my mama. Beating Bandit Keith has a dash of luck associated with it, and I don't like that. So it looks like deck upgrades are going to be needed again pretty soon. I discuss my deck worries with Joey, which honestly, if I'm taking Joey's advice, then I'm in bad shape. Shadi notices that Joey's about to share his opinion and steps in. I then have an urge to touch his long, hard Millennium item, which triggers repressed memories, and I start to lose my mind. I begin talking to myself, and we both conclude that I need to call child services. So I give myself a number and snap out of it. I then distance myself from Deadeyes, but he catches up to me at the tournament. Now, Shadi has comparatively weak monsters, but does have the ability to use it too. Of course, Old Faithful.
For Forbidden Memories.
To have the direct counter card for our entire strategy, Stop Defense. First turn, I already draw into forest, so half of the THTD stopper combo is completed, and I set it down. Shadi fuses Abyss Flower with Eye Armor to make Bean Soldier and attacks me directly. I draw a piece and dump a few cards, making Turtle Tiger in the process. Shadi sets a monster and puts Bean Soldier in defense. I draw Prevent Rat, and now the combo is complete, so the only thing to worry about is Stop Defense, which thankfully he didn't play once this duel. He actually got within 50 life points of losing because he kept attacking my face-down monsters, so I had to start playing them face-down
50 life
just
points,
so that wouldn't
holy.
happen. Of course, the last piece is the 40th card. I'm starting to suspect that's a mechanic in the game, it's happening so frequently. I don't even want to hear what this predator has to say. Let's move on to Yami Bakura, who is the defensive-focused duelist of the game. However, he still has some threats in his deck, like making THGD, boosting Gemini or Dark Elf, activating Dark Hole and Spellbinding Circle, or setting Reverse Trap to negate my equip cards. I immediately draw 2 pieces, which isn't something I want because that means less cards for me to set up on my field, but thankfully I was able to fuse into Boulder Tortoise. Bakura sets a monster, most likely Mystical Elf or Spirit of the Harp. I set Raigeki in case Bakura gets crazy, which he does, but in a way that benefits me because he wastes his Thunder Dragon to make a Flame Cerebrus fusion with Cyber Soldier and Mystic Horseman. I dump a few cards. Bakura destroys my boosted Protector of the Throne and sets a monster. I keep One-Eyed Shield Dragon because I'm desperate to make a ritual work in this game and dump a couple cards. Bakura sets a magic
You'll
card
be
and
really
destroys my
disappointed.
I set Prevent
With
Rat
rituals
and
especially.
Raigeki so I can set up more monsters instead of being 1 card away from getting attacked directly. Bakura fails at attacking over my rat with Spirit of the Mountain. I draw another rat and set it. Bakura fuses Invader of the Throne, Fire Kraken, and Axe Raider to make Vermilion Sparrow, then attacks my rat again with Spirit of the Mountain. I draw Armored Rat, so all I need is Curse of Millennium Shield, and I might actually be able to pull the impossible. No! Drawing a third piece of Exodia isn't great right now with an empty field, so I just set One-Eyed Shield Dragon because Bakura, like Villager 3, won't attack your face-down monsters 75% of the time. Bakura fuses O-Witch with Dome of the Angel of Silence to make Dark Witch, and my plan works. I draw a 4th piece, so now I don't have a lot of options to defend against anything Bakura throws at me, but the good news is I get lucky and Bakura doesn't make anything really threatening. Also, it only takes me 27 cards to get Exodia, so it wasn't a long duel. Alright, the party's over.
Yugi boy.
Pegasus is next, and the difficulty spike takes a huge leap. He can see your face-down cards, so he'll always attack if he has something stronger. He has a very high chance to have Raigeki, Harpy's Feather Duster, and Bright Castle. Has decently high attack monsters, and an absurd chance to have Meteor Black Dragon, which is just an instant loss. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, that thing is 3500 attack.
My second attempt, Pegasus used Raigeki 3 times. The deck we have was fun, but it's no longer viable. Also, rituals are useless and make you feel like an idiot for even trying to use them. So it's back to the drawing board. Since Yami Bakura is defensive focused, it only makes sense you get good defensive monsters from him, so that's who I'm going to farm. The new strategy is to get a bunch of females and spellcasters who can be boosted with similar equip cards in the Yami field that we got earlier from Villager 2. And hey look, I even got to use Curse of Millennium Shield and it was actually useful, stopping a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon next turn. Anyway, Win 2 gives me Invisible Wire, so I have a trap to stop some attacks. Win 4 gives La Moon, so we're off to a good start. Win 7 drops Lunar Queen Alzheim. Win 10, Saga the Dark Clown. Win 12, Dark Piercing Light, which we don't use yet, but may be necessary later. Win 18, Book of Secret Arts for an equip card. Win 36, Wing Egg Elf. And win 46, the best drop we get is Mystical Elf. Bakura didn't feel like giving me Spirit of the Harp, which would have really beefed up the stalling power of the deck, but I'm pretty sure what we have now will last us for a while.
Fight against Pegasus now.
I dump a couple cards and put Saga the Dark Clown in defense. Pegasus summons Bakuri Box and attacks. 3 Invisible Wires and a Raigeki in hand isn't great, so I dump all the traps and put Dragon Piper in defense.
Should have just put
Pegasus
Dragon
sets a
Piper
magic
down.
card and attacks. I draw a Mystical Elf, and with its Sun Star, it can prevent Bakuri Box to attack with its Moon Star. Pegasus puts Bakuri Box in defense and sets a monster. 2 pieces drawn, I decide to set Raigeki in case he gets anything stronger, but setting
Harpy's
cards
Feather
is
Duster.
as he can have Harpy's Feather Duster at any point. However, it's okay, because the new deck is working. I managed to stop Bakuri Box and was able to continue to boost the Mystical Elf with Silver Bow and Arrow and Book of Secret Arts. Now at the end of this duel, this guy's done a
4,500
lot of things. He first activates
Mystical Elf
when I don't have any back row cards, which means all he has in his hand are magics and traps. The next turn he does a ridiculous move of putting Invisible Wire on top of Raigeki, wasting both. But why didn't he use Raigeki to destroy all my monsters? If he had done that, he would have won easily. So what's happening? Well, the CPU determines whether or not to use a magic card based on certain conditions. Each condition is different for each card, and if they are met, then the card will be used. For the CPU to use Raigeki, there are two conditions. The first is that the CPU must lack field control, which means it doesn't have the strongest stat monster on the field. Since I have a Mystical Elf with 4,500 defense, it beats his 2,800 attack Bakuri box, so this condition is met. The second condition is that the player must have the same or more monsters than the CPU on the field. Since I have 4 monsters to his 5, the condition is not met and Pegasus won't activate Raigeki. This condition system is vital for an Exodia deck that must be abused to get through this game. 2 turns later, Exodia is summoned, duel is won, defeat can be better, and we move on to a Shizu. She has a chance to have Black Skull Dragon, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, a good chance for strong monsters that can be boosted by Umi, as well as Spellbinding Circle and Harpy's Feather Duster. Even has a good chance to use Turtle Oath since I can't do anything to stop her. Great start getting 2 equip cards. I fused La Moon and Prevent Rat to make Nekogel number 2 and set it in defense. A Shizu gets her 8% chance to play Black Skull Dragon on turn 1 and destroys Nekogel. I draw a second piece, an Invisible Wire, which is absolutely terrible. Shizu busts my trap and attacks directly.
Dunked on.
The heart of the cards guide me to a Mystical Elf, which is just what I needed to stop Beaskull. A double boosted Mystical Elf is something a Shizu can't get over because she has no equip cards, something I'm very relieved about because she summons another Beaskull next turn. As long as no Spellbinding Circles get activated, then this duel has been won. Being able to stop 2 Beaskull Dragons is really promising for this strategy. I'm feeling
Why you
proud of
call it
myself for coming up
Beaskull Dragons?
So if I can
Just
deal with
call it
BSD,
Black
surely I
Skull
should have
Dragons
trouble
like
with
it's
Blue Eyes
supposed
White
to be.
Dragon. Aside from Kaiba's Ace Monster, we need to worry about him having Stop Defense, Dark Hole, Crush Card, and Shadow Spell. But if we get through all that, we're in the clear.
He's gonna lose, isn't he?
I keep Book of Secret Arts and dump the rest. Seto sets what I assume is either a wall or a shield. I draw Mystical Elf and 2 equips, so this is looking like a win already. Only 13 cards drawn, and I already have 3
Don't count your chickens yet.
Another Silver Bow and Arrow given to Mystical Elf for some insurance. The best thing Kaiba tries is fusing Giant Soldier of Stone, Yamadron, and Kaminari Attack to make Old Faithful, which is no longer a real threat for our deck. 39 cards drawn to get all 5 pieces and complete the tournament.
Impossible! Exodia! It's not possible! No one's ever been able to call him Exodia! Obliterate!
So dramatic, Kaiba.
Man, gotta love Season 1. Oh yeah, I was
True.
acquiring Millennium items during this tournament so I can get back home. Well, now that I've done that, I can get one more chat with Simon Moran about the new Exodia support based off his cards and wind up... Where the hell am I? Anyway, I make my way back to Metropolis to catch up with a couple old friends and have some friendly duels before I go save these hiding cowards from the mages. Jono II surprisingly can have a lot of magic cards, but aside from consistently having Red Eyes Black Dragon, he doesn't really have any attacking threats at this stage of the game. Starting things off in Egypt Right, I misplay and fuse into Dark Witch, wasting Mystical Elf. Jono destroys my Witch with Guilty Didi Knight. Not a good draw, but at least Invisible Wire can bail me out, especially when Jono fuses his Knight with Flame Viper to make Vermilion Sparrow, which is still weak enough to trigger my trap. I don't want to see an Exodia piece right now, but I have some life points to spend while I draw something better, so I set Yami. Jono summons Swamp Battle Guard to attack. Nothing yet, I just set Silver Bow and Arrow. Jono does that dumb fusion into Vermilion Sparrow again, buying me more time. I always like seeing Raigeki, but now isn't the time. I made a potential misplay here because if Jono happened to have his Red Eyes Black Dragon, he would have done exactly 4,300 damage. Instead, it's a Flame Swordsman, and I have one more turn. I draw another piece, and I have no choice but to go all in on a Winging Elf. 2 equipped cards make 2,300 defense, which stops his current monsters, and its Sunstar gives it a boost against a potential Red Eyes. Turns out this was exactly enough to stall Jono, and a few turns later, he gets obliterated. Tiana II really isn't a threatening duel. She can have Stop Defense and a few equipped cards to boost her fairies, but that's it. Her strongest base attack monsters are Dark Witch and Megami at 1800, so pretty weak compared to the defense we can put on the field. A turn 1 Nekogel number 2 was able to stop Tiana for a few turns until she took advantage of Guardian Star advantage with Beam. To be honest, I don't know what I was doing this duel. I could have used Silver Bow and Arrow on Nekogel number 2 and Tiana wouldn't have been able to do anything. On the turn I drew Psychic Dark Clown, I could have set it and activated Yami to boost it while weakening all of Tiana's monsters. Now I do this next turn because I have no other option and it was enough to stall Tiana out, but what I'm saying is this wasn't my best performance. I gotta tighten up the screws if I hope to take down these mages. But
Make
first,
sure you're
I
doing
have to beat
things
this mage
properly.
soldier so I can rummage through Simon's room. Mage Soldier's deck pool is all over the place. He has so many cards with a 1 out of 2048 chance of being in his deck, it's confusing why he was even programmed in such a way. He also has no threatening magic traps and no equip cards to boost his monsters. His ace monster is Dry Gumo, the same as Villager 2 and 3, so this isn't going to be difficult. I boost Lamoon with Book of Secret Arts, so I'm already stopping Dry Gumo. Mage Soldier sets a monster. I set Raigeki. Mage Soldier tries his best to threaten me by fusing Water Magician and the thing that hides in the mud to make Mystical Sand, and by using that Mercury Guardian Star, getting over my Lamoon. I dump and fuse the Dark Witch, then boost it with Book of Secret Arts and set it to Neptune so Mystical Sand doesn't get that pesky Guardian Star advantage. And that was enough to stall him until victory. The consistency of the deck is making these duels end rather quickly, and I welcome it. Watching the CPU scramble while it meets its inevitable end is pretty fun. With the Mage Soldier defeated, I'm free to raid Simon's room. I find a map to the Forbidden Ruins and head there immediately. Seto set up shop here and pleads for me to buy his line of children's toys. I quickly realize he's some cheap counterfeit garbage and ignore him to find where the mages are posted up. Once I jot down the locations, I head to the first and easiest of the shrines, the Ocean Shrine. The Ocean Mage has no magical traps we need to worry about and is only a problem if he fuses into Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon because it gets a boost with the Umi field. But once I get something on the field that has more than 3300 defense, he's completely helpless. Start off removing his field boost with a boost of my own. Ocean Mage isn't screwing around and fuses Thunder Dragon with Electric Lizard to make Old Faithful and attacks directly. I dump my hand in a way that I keep Mystical Elf and boost it once, which is enough to stall against THGD. Thankfully, he doesn't activate an Umi and sets a monster. I get rid of Invisible Wire and boost Mystical Elf again. I'm not safe yet though. If he uses Umi, Twin-Headed will be stronger than my elf. He sets a magic card. I dump all monsters because all I care about is another equip card. He sets a monster and destroys my Wing Egg Elf. No equip yet, so I make another Mystical Elf, which Ocean Mage destroys immediately next turn.
He does not waste any time, huh?
There it is, a Book of Secret Arts, and the duel is over. This is the third attempt at the Ocean Mage, by the way. He kept fusing Twin-Headed too fast for me to set up in the other attempts, and because of this, I'll be grinding in Free Duel real soon. High Mage Sekhmetin is the go-to first duel because he's the easiest of the 5 High Mages due to his large deck pool making him inconsistent. However, this Exodia challenge makes him a potential hurdle. He can have Raigeki and Harpy's Feather Duster as well as many equip cards to boost already strong monsters. My hope is that he sets either his wall or shield to buy me time so I can get my own defensive monsters on the field. I start things off making the field advantageous to myself. Sekhmetin does what I was hoping for and sets a wall. I fuse Tenderness with Wing Egg Elf to make Mystical Elf and boost it with Silver Bow and Arrow. Sekhmetin sets another wall, giving me more time to boost Mystical Elf further. I dump a few cards and put Saggy in defense. He sets a magic card. I get another equip, but decide to set Raigeki, which looking back is definitely a misplay. Sekhmetin
should have used those.
Shin on a crab turtle to attack over Mystical Elf. The High Mage blows my Raigeki away with Harpy's Feather Duster and destroys my clown with Roaring Ocean Snake. I fuse Sleeping Lion and Lamoon to make a Nekogon number 2. He fuses Boulder Tortoise, Kairu Shin, and Kemenari Attack to make Old Faithful and destroys my Gal with his snake. Finally, I use Bow and Arrow on Mystical Elf, and the duel is over at this point. It took all 40 cards to summon Exodia, and during that time I managed to beef up Mystical Elf's defense to 5,500. So now that I have a High Mage under my belt, it's time to go into Free Duel and farm the bitch. He can give us a lot of good cards that are welcome upgrades if we manage to snag them. Problem is that winning campaign was a pretty big fluke. So yeah, I won several times and even got a winged egg of new life, but I'm losing more than I'm winning and I don't like these odds. I need to get more cards that have immediate stopping power, but how do I do that when I can't get S or Atex? Well, it just so happens that Ishizu is the only duelist in the game that drops Widespread Ruin in the BCD ranks, and Kaiba can drop Acid Trap Hole in the BCD ranks as well. Since Ishizu is the easier duel, I'm gonna farm her. Win 4 drops Wasteland, which could be quite useful later on. Win 14, I get Elf's Light, another equip to boost the females and fairies in my deck. Win 25 gives Widespread Ruin, so now I have something to stop strong monsters. Instead of going for Kaiba to get Acid Trap Hole, I go back to Sekhmetin because of that Elf's Light drop, and I think that plus Widespread is a big enough upgrade. I still lose a bunch, but I win a little more, and that's enough for me to deal with wasting my time on all these losses. Win 13, I get Spirit of the Harp, essentially another Mystical Elf, so that's great.
Yeah.
Win 24 gives me the big wall, which I put in my deck regardless of cohesion, because you can't just disregard a card with 3,000 in either stat.
Absolutely.
Win 35 drops Aqua Medor that can use a few of the cards we already have in our deck, so it's a welcome addition. And Win 48 grants another great card, Illusionist Faceless Mage. Now the deck is looking mightily consistent, so let's go back to the campaign and see how far we can take it. The Desert Mage is certainly easier than the Ocean Mage. His strongest cards are Mystical Sand, Brachioratus, and Great Math of Goldfind, with his other cards being more defensive focused. He doesn't have any magical traps that we need to worry about, so this is going to be easy. I start by setting my new beautiful Widespread Ruin. Desert Mage sets a trap card as well. I equip Book of Secret Arts to Illusionist Faceless Mage, and now the only monster that can attack over it is Great Mammoth of Goldfind with its Moonstar. He sets a monster. I boost Spirit of the Harp with Elf's Light and Silver Bow and Arrow, so now Desert Mage also needs a Mystical Sand with its Mercury Star, and since I have a Widespread Rune already set, there's no chance Desert Mage is getting through all this defense. He did attack with a Mammoth, but that was it. 3 pieces drawn at once, and the duel is won. High Mage Martyrs is actually much of the same duel. He does have a few more monsters that are strong without the Wasteland boost, but his strongest monsters still are Mystical Sand, Brachioratus, and Great Mammoth Goldfine. 3 equips and Raigeki with no Exodia pieces? I'll take it. Martyrs attacks directly with Dark Magician. Another equip and no real monster to use them all, so I just set Wing-Egg Elf. The High Mage destroys it with Dark Magician and attacks directly with Summon Skull. Okay, 3,000 life points left. I'm gonna need something soon. I really didn't want to see an Exodia piece. With no other choice, I set an Elf's Light and activate Raigeki. He fuses Crawling Dragon number 2 with Ghoul with an Appetite to make Skelgon and leaves me with 800 life points. I finally draw something to dump all these equip cards onto, and 3,500 defense is too difficult for Modest to attack over, so the duel is over at this point. That was a pretty close call, but still being able to win means I have no reason to go back and farm yet. Let's go to the Mountain Shrine to catch up with our good buddy, the Mountain Mage. He confused Old Faithful a lot, he confused Crimson Sunbird a lot, and he has a high chance that Stop Defense is in his deck. Of the 5 Shrine Mages, he is definitely the most difficult. Turn 1 is a good start, equipping 2 Elf's Light to Spirit of the Harp, which Mountain Mage destroys with the Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, and I couldn't recover from that point. He calls me an idiot again, I'm pissed, and I rematch him right away. Immediately drawing 2 pieces of Exodia is a bad sign, I use Yami and hope for the best. Mountain Mage sets the field to Mountain again, and you ever notice how changing the field to Yami is much shorter than any other field? Anyway, I don't have anything good in my hand, so I decide to play some trickery against the CPU, and after dumping the other cards, I leave Aquamador and attack because if the CPU has a monster in their hand that can destroy your strongest card on the field, it will not consider fusing, and since I don't want to see Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon at all, I can manipulate Mountain Mage to not actually fuse one. My plan works, and he plays a Crystal Dragon to take my Aquamador out. I dead draw, keep the equip, and put another Aquamador in defense. Unfortunately, the plan doesn't work for long and Old Faithful comes out. Getting worried now, all I can do is set Wing-Egg Elf. Mountain Mage decides that 3,300 attack monster is too weak to gamble on my face down card and buys me a turn. I get the perfect draw and set that wall immediately. Unless he activates Stop Defense, this duel is finished. He may think I'm an idiot, but he's the one standing in a landing zone. Up next, High Mage Atenza, who has a ton of threats for this duel. Strong monsters like Guy the Dragon Champion, Sang of the Thunder, Old Faithful, Beast Skull Dragon, and even Meteor Black Dragon. Equip cards to boost those already strong monsters
Thunder Dragon,
wipe
Old
our board and
Faithful.
significantly decrease our defensive power. I shift the field advantage to favor me with Yami to start off. Atenza is not fucking around and uses Dragon Treasure on Beast Skull Dragon to get a ridiculous 3,700 attack monster on the field. Good news is that Wing-Egg Elf can fuse into itself, and with 2 equipped boosts with a Guardian Star advantage, my Mystical Elf can stop Beast Skull from taking the rest of my life points. He sets a monster, I set Widespread Ruin, which couldn't have come at a better time because next turn Atenza boosts his Beast Skull Dragon again with another Dragon Treasure. And with that, I stopped the High Mage's best attempt at going over my defenses. He used the Shadow Spell and boosted a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon later on in the duel, but by then I drew more equip cards to boost my Mystical Elf further, so the only chance he had was playing Raigeki, which he did. While I was busy taking ass and kicking names, Tiana got herself kidnapped, and because Jono is useless no matter what year it is, I have to go to the Vast Shrine to get it back. First for a block to Tiana is the Labyrinth Mage. His deck is actually quite bad for this stage in the game, but he has a few cards in his deck pool that if he ends up getting can beat you in a couple turns. Gate Guardian is by far his best card, and he also has Stop Defense and Reverse Trap to completely ruin our defensive plan. I set a Widespread Ruin and Labyrinth Mage activates it with Suijin. Because he summoned Suijin, I was assuming that was his strongest monster, so Aquamador +1 equip boost would be enough to stop his next turn. I was wrong, and Lab Mage destroys my Aquamador with a Sang of the Thunder. I draw Spirit of the Harp to use the other equips in my hand to stop Sanga, and while I'm at it, I dump another Aquamador. Baldy sets a trap card and puts Sanga in defense. Drawing 4 monsters means it's time to put another Widespread down, which ended up being the right play because Bald Mage activates Stop Defense and tries to destroy my Spirit of the Harp. Still haven't drawn an Exodia piece, so I dump my entire hand and put a Lab Wall in defense. The Mage has expended his offensive options and just sets a monster. I draw 2 more equips for Spirit of the Harp, and despite his trap card possibly being Reverse Trap, I take the chance because if it isn't, then the duel is pretty much over. The gamble pays off, and even if he draws Gate Guardian, it isn't enough to do anything against me.
Neat.
Right, left, right, and we make it to the end of the maze just in time to see Tiana passed out from being force-fed GHB and surrounded by hungry fuckboys. We white knight the situation, Heishin retreats, and we face Seto for the second time. He has several strong monsters and disruptive magic cards that can overwhelm us instantly. Even has 1 out of 2048 chances for Meteor B and Beast Skull Dragons in case you're feeling unlucky. Can't really do much with this hand except dump. Seto summons Blue Eyes White Dragon to destroy my Spirit of the Harp, which is good considering what else he can play. My next hand is absolutely ridiculous, and with all these bows and arrows, the only threats left are Seto's magic cards. However, because of how the CPU determines whether or not to actually activate a magic card, I'm in no real danger of Seto using one, so I can just cruise to a win. Without giving too technical an explanation, it's similar to the suicide glitch I've gone into detail about before, where equip cards aren't taken into account when the CPU is making a decision, so we'd see a 3500 defense mystical elf while the CPU is seeing a 2000 defense weak monster. Instead, it was ecstatic that I'm abusing the mechanics of his feeble mind, and since I kinda get a high off of it, I go right back to beating on some mages. Heading to the Forest Shrine, the low mage here doesn't have much to get over our defenses. His strongest monster is Dry Gumo, and he can have reverse trap, but that's it. Starting things off, changing the field advantage, which the Forest Mage changes right back. I boost an Aquamador with Book of Secret Arts, and already there is very little Forest Mage can do. Predictably, he sets a monster. I set a Widespread Ruin. He sets a magic card, which can only be Swords of Revealing Light, Eradicating Aerosol, or another forest. I draw a Labyrinth Wall, and that's it. The Forest Mage has no more options to try and beat me. It's one of the easiest of the low mages, so no surprise this was a breeze. The high mage of the Forest Shrine, Anubisius, is a stark contrast to the low mage. Actually, the other challenge runs I've done so far have shown otherwise. Anubisius has been an easy duel in the past, it'll probably be the same this time. He can have 3 very strong monsters and a ton of equips to boost them, but doesn't have any magic cards we should be afraid of, except maybe Harpy's Feather Duster destroying our Widespread Ruins.
Oh shit.
I get a fantastic starting hand, but if Anubisius plays perfectly Ultimate Great Moth turn 1, then I'm in serious trouble if I waste all the equips, so I just set Labyrinth Wall. The High Mage sets a magic card, I set Aquamador. Anubisius summons an imperfectly normal Great Moth and destroys my Aquamador. Seems like he doesn't have Pugum, so I feel comfortable just setting Illusionist Faceless Mage. He sets another magic card and puts Great Moth in defense, giving me more time to get something big on a field. Raigeki is a great draw to stop anything it can throw at me, hopefully he doesn't have Harpy's Feather Duster. Anubisius uses both face-down equip cards on Nukagal number 2, making her a beefy 3400 attack, but Anubisius is like Villager 3 and only has a 25% chance to attack your face-down monsters, so the odds are in favor of my monsters being safe, and that's exactly what happens. He destroys my Faceless Mage with his Nekogel. Back to waiting for another card. I see Spirit of the Harp, but when her Guardian Stars appear, I realize 3 equips plus her Mars Star is enough to stop PU Great Moth, so now I just have to hope he doesn't destroy her. To my relief, Anubisius decides to destroy only Labyrinth Wall, which gives me the opportunity to replace that harp with a Kimbo Bows. I boost Spirit of the Harp one more time, and Anubisius reveals he indeed has a perfectly Ultimate Great Moth. I just got lucky that he didn't hit that 32% chance to play it on turn 1. And that's the duel. We still haven't experienced a true struggle against this guy, which feels so weird because I had a horrible time against him when I was a kid. Anyway, we snag another Millennium item and venture straight to the last shrine on the list, the Meadow Shrine. Despite the Meadow Mage being the go-to duelist to farm for all the great cards, his deck is relatively weak. His strongest card is Judge Man, and he can have Stop Defense, but unless he starts using the cards he can drop in Free Duel, this will just be as easy as the Forest Mage. I boost Illusionist Faceless Mage with Book of Secret Arts, and that's game. Only thing Meadow Mage could have done was activate Stop Defense, but he didn't, so the entire duel consisted of me mindlessly dumping cards until I won. At this point, I'm kinda hoping High Mage Kapura puts up more of a challenge just so I can talk about the duel rather than speed through it. Kapura is considered to be the hardest of the High Mages solely because of the raw attack power of 2 of his cards, Black Skull Dragon and Gate Guardian. The latter getting a field boost, making it 4250 attack. He can also boost it further with Sword of Dark Destruction, and has a couple other equip cards for the rest of the monsters in his deck.
Holy shit.
One saving grace is that both of his powerhouse monsters are Moon Guardian Star, so the Sun Star on our Mystical Elf and Spirit of the Harp will be very useful.
Okay,
4 monsters
then.
and 1 piece of Exodia, not the hand I'm looking for. I dump everything and hope Kapura does that. I set Widespread Ruin for some protection, which Kapura triggers with only a Gaia the Dragon Champion. I can boost Spirit of the Harp to 3000, but I'm worried that the only reason Kapura summoned Gaia the Dragon Champion is because it could use Guardian Star Advantage to take out Labyrinth Wall, so I hold off on using the equips. Unfortunately, I draw another piece of Exodia, so I don't have much choice now but to give a couple books for Mystical Elf to read. Kapura sets a trap card, which can only be Fake Trap or Invisible Wire for some reason. Seriously, why does he have such a weak trap card? Anyway, those books we gave Mystical Elf were training manuals on how to properly shoot a bow, so we gave her one of those. Kapura sets all his monsters in defense and never did anything worthy of note again. What's wild about this run is we've now gone through 3 duelists whose strongest card is Gate Guardian, who all have a good chance of having one, and yet none did. Is this a Gate Guardian-less run? No, probably not. After defeating Kapura, the salesman ambushes me to say he's got a new inventory of Jamaican Pikachus and he'll give me a great deal for such an exclusive item. But just like the rest of his wares, it's bootleg trash, and I tell his ass to take a hike. Alright, well, we had our fun with the Spellcaster Fairy deck.
I love these
the final
edits.
6, there's no way it'll get through the gauntlet. Furthermore, there isn't much I can do to upgrade the deck. I don't like that Spirit of the Harp loses stats under the effects of Yami, and I really should be focusing on boosting Labyrinth Wall. So, we're going back to familiar territory and farming Heishin for rock types. Of all the types in the game, rocks are definitely the most defensive focused. Wasteland also boosts dinosaurs and zombies, which they too have some decent defensive monsters that can fill out the deck. It's not going to be an easy grind, but at this point in the game, it's necessary. I pretty much win once for every loss, which isn't bad. Win 2, and already off to a good start, getting Pumpkin the King of Ghosts. Win 7 drops Mega Zowler, no rocks yet, but at least getting Wasteland boosted cards. Win 10 drops the first rock type, and it's a great one, Millennium Golem. Next win drops Boulder Tortoise, which isn't a rock but is still high defense. Win 14 gives Megami just to make farming Heishin a little easier. Win 28 Senga the Thunder, the first time it has ever dropped for me, so I was really tempted to use it. Win 33, I get Nekogel number 2, another great addition to our current deck. Win 34, drop Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, and now I'm wishing this was a Thunder only run. Finally, Win 41 drops Giant Soldier of Stone. I didn't get Stone D, but that's okay, we can live without it. After Heishin, I then farmed Villager 1 for a while to get Fig Trap so I can A-Tech some of the other duelists for better cards. It only took 14 wins to get it to drop, and now I can go back to strengthening the new deck. Next on the list is Rex Raptor. He drops only one card that I'm interested in, Invigoration. He also has the best odds of dropping it at 36 out of 2048. So this may take a while. Ah shit, he decked out when I wasn't paying attention. Oh. Well, does this count? I mean, I was trying to beat him with Exodia, but he kept fusing from the hand, so that's not my fault, right? You know
no,
what?
It shouldn't
this
be.
counts. I'm adding a new rule that if I'm trying to beat an opponent with Exodia and they mill themselves out, the win counts. This still makes farming Pegasus for Atex impossible because I would be knowingly trying to deck him out instead of beating him with Exodia, but I get to keep this shiny Invigoration that Rex has graciously dropped in the first duel.
Neat.
The deck is still not ready, so I go back to Yamabukuro to get some equip cards from him at Atech. Win 53 drops Black Pendant, which I can use on several monsters, and Win 80 gives me Bray Castle, Megamorph's little brother. So here's the new deck. Nothing below 2000 defense, a lot of equips, and a trio of wastelands. To get to the card requirement, I buy Millennium Shield. Let's give this a shot. I've grinded a lot of hours for this moment, and they are all about to pay off.
Let's see it. Ultimate Dragon. Paid off real quick, huh? Just straight up Ultimate Dragon dunked on him real easily. It is the ultimate beast in terms of attack and defense. And Harpy's Feather Duster, bruh, he's so unlucky. This is just
okay, so
priceless.
The deck isn't ready yet. Seto Third is currently the hard roadblock of the run, no surprise there. The dude's deck is ridiculous. Doesn't duel like an absolute moron, has 20 card hands, and can see your face down cards. So letting him do whatever he wants is a big no-no. But I have to deal with this problem, and how do you deal with any problem in Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories?
Card destruction.
Real, baby! This time I'm farming Mountain Mage for Dying Kid of the Cure Master because I may not be able to get Megamorph, but I can fuse one. It took 27 wins for Mountain Mage to drop.
Spells?
Still not confident the deck is good enough. I move on to Middle Mage as he drops 2 very good magic cards at very good odds. It took only 3 wins to get Dark Hole and 23 wins for Spellbinding Circle. Alright, I've revised the deck a little bit and this is what it looks like now. 13 monsters, 9 equips, 9 magic cards, 1 Wasteland, 3 Widespread Ruins, and of course Exodia. 3 Dying Ketos to fuse into Megamorph, 3 Spellbinding Circles to fuse into Shadow Spell, which would then fuse with the 1 Dark Piercing Light to make Swords of Revealing Light. Bright Castle and Invigoration to boost all of my monsters, and Black Pendant can boost Millennium Golem and Pumpkin into King of Ghosts. Alright,
let's go.
Let's do it. Let's take on the final 6. First up, the 2 Guardians of the Vast Shrine, Reptile and Robin. The first doesn't have too much for us to worry about. His strongest monsters are Metal Zoa and Zoa, and he has a high chance for Shadow Spell. The second is a little tougher. He has a wider range of strong monsters and a high chance to have stop defense, but is similar in difficulty to his brother, colleague, lover?
What?
Not the best hand, but Labyrinth Wall, well, it's a wall, you know? Sebek boosts Launcher Spider with Machine Conversion
It is
Factory.
a wall.
I'm glad it isn't Metal Zoa or I would be in trouble. Next turn, I draw Invigoration and boost Lab Wall with it. The only threat left is Shadow Spell. Sebek sets a monster. I set Raigeki for insurance. Sebek sets again. Bright Castle is a good draw, but I save it for another monster in case a Shadow Spell does get played, which it does next turn. Launcher Spider destroys my wall and Labyrinth Tank attacks me directly. I dump Giant Soldier of Stone and boost Millennium Golem, which is just enough to defend. Sebek sets a magic card and puts his monsters in defense. I draw a 3rd Exodia piece, so my hand size is getting pretty small, but thankfully I draw another equip card for Millennium Golem. Sebek sets another magic card, he only has 3 to choose from. I draw another Bright Castle to boost my Golem, and now I can assume that I've won the duel. Took longer than I was expecting. I mean, Sebek is the easiest of the final 6 by a pretty wide margin, so I'm nervous this deck still isn't good enough. We're gonna jump right into the next duel here.
Exodia.
Well, That's a good hand.
Exactly, isn't going to be good by any
Wall.
chance.
Neku has no other option but to set a monster. Wow, another great hand. The power of this deck is really showing in this duel. With 3 boosts, even if Neku uses stop defense, Millennium Golem's attack stat will still stop him from getting my life points. So that's game. Fusing 2 Dianketos into Megamorph feels awesome. I recommend doing it if you're having a bad day. Not sure if it feels better than fusing 2 Spellbinding Circles and a Dark Piercing Light into Swords of Revealing Light though. Time to take revenge on Heishin, the mirror match of the run. He has strong monsters, he has Raigeki and Megamorph, and he has Exodia, which he can assemble fairly easily with his 20 card hands.
Wait, really?
Not a good starting hand, so I dump the monsters. Heishin summons Meteor Black Dragon, and I'm happy it's not Gate Guardian. Pumpkin the King of Ghosts plus 3 equips and its Neptune Guardian Star are more than enough to stop Meteor Black Dragon. Heishin sets a trap card. I set Widespread Ruin in case Heishin starts getting crazy with Megamorphs. He summons another Meteor Black Dragon in face down attack. I activate the 1 Wasteland in the deck, and the field is going to stay that way since Heishin doesn't have any field cards of his own. He sets another trap card, pretty much the equivalent of passing his turn with our deck. I boost Labyrinth Wall with an Invigoration to have a second monster on the field for insurance. A third pass turn for Heishin. I set a second Widespread Ruin. Heishin makes a move by equipping Megamorph to one of his Meteor Black Dragons and immediately triggers a Widespread Ruin with it. That turned out to be his best move for the whole duel. One more equip on Pumpkin secures my life points are safe. Kind of. Heishin has the cards to take me out, but because the CPU is programmed to look at the field in a specific way, he will never actually go for the kill. If you could activate that face down Raigeki, I'd probably be screwed, and in fact, it's because the CPU does things like this that an Exodia Challenge run is even possible. With Heishin defeated, we finally have all 7 Millennium. Alright, Seto swoops in out of nowhere and yoinks the Millennium Rod, so now we have to defeat this cherry-picking, sidelining bitch. Unfortunately, bitch is the farthest description of Seto III, as he plays the strongest monster in the game on turn 1 57% of the time, very often has more than one, has great supporting monsters, and the 3 best magic cards in the game. 20 card hands, X-ray vision, Seto has it all.
I already thought it, so yeah.
Decent start getting Widespread Ruin for that Blue Eyes Ultimate turn 1, Seto instead triggers it with Meteor Black Dragon. Since he played an MBD, I'm assuming that was his strongest monster, and a Labyrinth Wall plus 1 boost is enough to stall him. And it is, as he summons another Meteor Black Dragon. I don't know about you guys, but having a hand filled with magic cards in this game just feels good. It's like I have options rather than play big monster by fusing every turn. Anyway, Seto sets a trap card and destroys my wall with Beast Skull. I set another Widespread Ruin. Seto sets a magic card. I used 2 Bright Castles on Labyrinth Wall, making it 4500 defense, so now I'm safe from monster attacks. Several turns go by, and I find out I got real lucky this duel, as Seto not only has a Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon in his deck, he actually has 2. So for him to have 2 and not draw either of them on turn 1 when he draws half his deck is... well, I do the math, but I suck at it. Now, normally after Seto is defeated, his life is threatened by Heishin, who makes a return from the Shadow Realm, but this time, all that is skipped and Dark Knight wakes up wondering who just got obliterated. Unfortunately for me, Dark Knight was not playing around. He doesn't have the strongest monsters, but that ends up being a big problem because the AI is now more inclined to use all the magic cards Dark Knight has in his deck. Stop Defense, Shadow Spell, Raigeki, Crush Card, Harpy's Feather Duster, Megamorph, Tremendous Fire, he used them all. This duel was really pissing me off because I wasn't expecting it to be harder than Seto III, and every time I lost, I had to go through the gauntlet all over again and basically pray that Seto wasn't going to turn 1 Blue Eyes Ultimate me like he so often does. I lost 8 times in a row against Dark Knight, and I only ever got to duel him once every 4 tries through the final 6 because Heishin or Seto would pull their usual bullshit and end the duel before I could attempt to set up. The duel you're about to watch is the culmination of 161 total duels since I started trying to beat the final 6.
Wow.
I never would have predicted Dark Knight is this challenging to beat with an Exodia deck, but it turns out his weaker monsters are what makes him so insufferably good at eliminating my defenses. Great start, I dump Giant Soldier Stone and boost Labyrinth Wall twice with Break Castles. Dark Knight sets a monster. I get a second Spellbinding Circle to make a Shadow Spell if I need and activate Wasteland. Dark Knight stays passive with another set monster. I boost Pumpkin the King of Ghosts with Black Pendant. He sets a third monster, which is such a stark contrast to the 8 other attempts at beating this guy. I draw the final piece to Swords of Revealing Light combo and release all the endorphins my brain can produce. Dark Knight uses Shadow Spell on my monsters. It's a good thing I activate Swords last turn. I boost Millennium Golem twice, so Dark Knight can't attack over me with monsters alone.
Yeah.
Dark Knight summons a face-down attack position Moonstar monster, which can only be Black Skull Dragon. I dump my third Spellbinding Circle and boost Millennium Golem again. He sets a trap card. If Swords of Revealing Light was a normal card you could earn, this challenge run would be so much easier. I set one of the 2 Widespread Ruins, which Dark Knight brushes away with Harpy's Feather Duster. He also destroys my Pumpkin with a Sword Arm of Dragon. I set the second Widespread Ruin. Dark Knight also sets a trap card and puts his Sword Arm of Dragon in defense. Activate Right.
That might be a mistake.
Sets another monster. I'm pretty surprised how many monsters Dark Knight has in his deck this duel. His deck pool is heavily skewed towards magics and trap cards, and many monsters have minuscule chances to be selected. For example, the Sword Arm of Dragon he used has only a 4 out of 2048 chance to be in his deck at all. Back to the duel, Dark Knight activates a Yami field card that boosts his face down Cosmo Queen, and it triggers a Widespread Ruin. I'm nearing the last 10 cards in my deck, so dumping cards is the go-to play until I draw the last 2 Exodia pieces. He sets another trap card. I draw a 4th piece, so I'm almost there. After 160 duels, and I don't even know how many hours, being this close to victory is a huge relief, but also completely nerve-wracking because Dark Knight can still pull out some nonsense, like activating another shadow spell and weakening all my monsters, which turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Come on.
It's Crush card, and I only have 1 monster on the field with over 1500 attack now. He also uses Guardian Star Advantage so Giant Mech Soldier can destroy my Giant Soldier of Stone. He set Dainketo the Cure Master. Dark Knight now decides to use Raigeki to destroy the rest of my monsters and attacks directly. Thankfully, I have a monster, and it's a good one. Dark Knight is done activating things and sets a trap card. We're almost there. Just don't do anything crazy, Batman, for fuck's sakes. Dark Knight summons a face-down attack position Sunstar monster, which can only be a Blue Eyes White Dragon. God, I love Labyrinth Wall. After 36 drawn cards, I finally defeat Dark Knight.
Yay.
If I lose to Nightmare, I'm gonna snap. Good news is he drops every single magic and trap card he has in his deck and only uses monsters for this final duel. If I can just summon a 4500 defense monster, I'll have successfully stalled Nightmare until I inevitably draw the final Exodia of this challenge run. I set a Widespread Ruin to start, Nightmare triggers it with Gate Guardian. I boost Pumpkin the King of Ghosts twice and set it to Neptune Stars so it can stop a potential Meteor Black Dragon. Nightmare sets a monster, I boost Pumpkin again with Black Pendant. Nightmare sets again. I activate Wasteland. I realized I just need 1 more equip card and Pumpkin will reach 4500 defense, so I dump everything in my hand. Nightmare destroys the Minimushi Warrior I didn't mean to fuse with Trihorn Dragon. I don't get an equip this turn, so only thing to do is dump all the monsters. Nightmare plays a 5th defensive monster, and there it is, another Black Pendant. Yes. The duel and the final 6 are finally over.
Victory. Should have played the animation here too. Oh, he speeds it up and combines it. Alright, fair enough. Playing it with the feet. Cool.
What a grueling final 6. I'm incredibly relieved it only took 1 try to beat Nightmare. Oddly anticlimactic when I think about it. Settle Third and Dark Knight were such difficult duels, and Nightmare was just brain-dead brute force. So is it possible to beat Yu-Gi-Oh! Forbidden Memories with an Exodia deck? Barely. Well, having all those restrictions in place definitely made it a lot tougher. If I didn't get myself so massively, this would have been an easier time. But I wanted to complete a challenge run where there was no doubt that I was only winning with Exodia. If I had just made a big beat stick and continuously attacked the monsters my opponent put down while I wait until I draw all 5 pieces, there would literally be 0 challenge in that. As much as this run frustrated me, made me rethink strategy, and made me farm and free duel, I'm glad I've done it, and I hope you're glad you watched it. Thank you for sticking it out all the way to the end, I really appreciate it. Feel free to comment what else you'd like to see from me, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos, and if you haven't already, check out other challenge runs I've done. Alright, see you in the next one.
That was relatively speaking fun. I don't think I can play Forbidden Memories with those restrictions. Heck, I don't think I can play it at all. But you should. Nah, I'm kidding.